Good morning.
Welcome
to the morning show, Joe and Kelin. I will tell you, the messages came in hot and heavy after yesterday's show.
Really?
Parents do not like the idea of their kids classified as the dumb kids. So that was the major pushback.
People don't like you using the word dumb.
I know. And
they get real upset about it.
That's exactly why I chose to use it. And you know, I like truth and objectivity, right?
Yeah.
If it is observable that your kid's eating paint chips, right, and they're behaving terribly, and they don't know decorum or politeness or anything like that,
Yeah.
I put them into this classification where they are dumb, right? It's almost like if you brought a deep, meaningful thing in front of them, they would be lost. And those are the dumb kids. So
do you think they get offended because they think their kid is like...
Every kid thinks their kid is smart and beautiful.
But that's the thing is like, if you say some kids are dumb
Yeah.
and someone's knee-jerk reaction is to get upset, do you think they think it's their kid?
They might have thought it.
Like,
they might
why
have had
else
that
would
thought.
you get...
And no parent wants their kid to be in the dumb. And in fact, the biggest pushback was that if we segregated classrooms by capacity, right, it would be a truth. But if you were in the dumb kids class, like that would be a hard truth as a parent and a kid.
Yeah.
And it might undermine their confidence, right? And so you really got to look at life as if you're going to look at it truthful, and truthful sometimes hurts a little bit and it's a little bit painful, but it's enough of an inspiration to escape and do different things. Or you just want everybody to feel good, and it's utopia, unicorns, and blasting farts of rainbows. And I just choose the objectively true side.
Well, I can remember. So, no news here. I'm terrible at math. I always have been. I probably always will be. And I can remember when I was getting ready to go to college, you take like a placement test as to where you're going to fall in your courses when you get to college. And when I got to college and I went to my first math class, I kid you not, our work was basic addition, subtraction. Like we're talking 5 plus 2, 2 times 2, basic. And I went, I'm the dumb kid. I'm the dumb kid. Like I'm in college and I'm doing elementary school math. This is what I tested into. No, I loved it because for the first couple weeks, it's probably the only time I did well in math. But would you say I'm the dumb kid, I am dumb, or I'm bad at a certain thing?
My definition of dumb is capacity, right? If the people who don't know they're bad at math are the dumb kids, right?
Yeah.
You know that that's not your lane, and you're brilliant in other areas. So you have the capacity to stay in your lane and get a specialization in an area where you have capacity to be dominant in. You're not a dumb kid, right?
Because I realize.
Right, exactly. It's only when we use untruth and we feel that, like, what if I came in here and said, even though I knew that you were not good at math,
Yeah.
what if I fluffed you and I just wanted you to be overconfident in the math side just so you wouldn't feel bad and have to stare down, like a void in your
Like
world.
you'd be like, listen, everybody is bad at that. Nobody knows what
Right. That's not
50
helping
times
you.
100 is.
That's not helping you, but that's
Yeah.
what education does. The feminization of culture means that feeling good about something is a benefit, where overconfidence in something that you're terrible at, like you're on the field playing second base and you can't, get a ground ball. You can't field a ground ball. You can't hit. You're a shit player. And I don't care if the people in the stands are pity cheering you and the coach is saying, try hard.
You can do
You
this.
suck at the end result of being a second baseman. Period.
Yeah.
And that's what that's sort of like we've given a lot of below and at average academically or capacity people too much confidence because we're so afraid to shame. We're so afraid of truth. We're so afraid of hurting feelings that we lie to you and tell you, no, you're perfect at math. Nobody gets this right. Keep doing math. And then when I'm on a shuttle heading to Mars and you did my math computations to be able to get me there,
God.
I'm fucking dead. Okay?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
you
what
are.
the rest of us has to deal with when you overconfidence somebody in a specialization, and they go in there thinking, I'll formulate your trajectory to Mars, Joe. I got this. And I'm like, no, you need to know you're bad at math. Stay the F out of that lane. Go in the lane. So I'm not going to revisit everything that I did yesterday, but the dumbness really irritated certain people. And, I have no apologies for it. Maybe definitional apologies, because I'm not calling any individual person dumb, but the whole group on the aggregate. There are dumb people amongst us. And as soon as you know you're dumb, you could start working on it. There you go.
So you don't have to be permanently dumb.
No, not in today's society.
It's not a death sentence.
No. If your teachers and your professors and your parents decided to say, hey, you're really bad at math, but let's dig in and put 100% of our effort in making you good at math, rather than saying, oh, you're bad at math, let's keep you away from things that, have math integrity is essential, and put you in something you're actually wired to handle.
Matthew has a question, and I knew this question was coming.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to get it yesterday, but we're getting it now. Just making sure, are we claiming that kids with disabilities are dumb? I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt, but I want to understand your point.
The frickin' exception thing every time comes out. But what about the whatever?
Like, Matthew, do you think Joe would call somebody with a disability dumb?
He's clarifying. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that he wanted to make sure that the asterisk exception wasn't entering in our rule.
Clearly, that's
we
not
have
what we're
schools
talking
for that.
about.
We have special treatments for that. We isolate it. We tag it. We make sure it gets handled well. I'm talking about the potentially capable, right, that has the capacity, that are underutilizing because of the brain-dead education system that tries to put everybody through the same damn funnel.
Well, when you got the angry comments, was it from people that you think thought you were talking about disabled kids?
It's knee-jerk. So you got low-capacity parents that are defending low-capacity kids, and they take exception when you basically point at their kid and say, hey, what if teachers could just talk directly to kids and say, your kid is struggling in every department. They have behavioral issues. They can't concentrate. If I put them in my classroom, they're not getting nothing out of it. So go over there, get in the line with kids that have all of those failings. So not a mental deficit where they don't have a disability, just you grew up in a culture and a home that didn't put high, priority on education, and you just created dumb output and wasted a couple years of a kid's life. Now they have the ability to get into a line that's going to deal with them wherever they're at and get them up to a level where they're not a detriment on the rest of society.
Would you say that you're sort of saying dumb being synonymous with lazy, or different?
No, uninspired and disengaged and just don't care, that's real lazy to me. Someone who just hasn't been inspired. They haven't come across the right person. And it could be you have a bunch of deadbeat parents and you have deadbeat friends, and nobody inspires you and challenges you to do something greater than what you're doing. And that's a lot of people. Now, with the internet, though, you can get exposure. So it's not like a lack of information. You don't have to bust out of your neighborhood and, throw your family to the wolves and totally pick a new environment. You can say, my family sucks, my neighborhood sucks, all of my friends suck, I'm just going to become a terrible person if I go down this path. Let me go on YouTube and look up some people who have higher ambitions than my world does. And you can get into that lane and you can learn on your own. And the unambitious, don't know any better, are only a couple feet away from someone who can talk some good wisdom and sense into them.
Yeah, and like Matthew said, okay, I had a feeling he wasn't saying that, but with a broad statement like that, I want to make sure it's covered. Because, unfortunately, with the internet, people will put words in your mouth. They'll hear something and run with it.
That is their job, and that's why we say and do half the things that we do, just to incite that conversation, right? I want a dumb parent, right, to just knee-jerk reaction and defend against their dumb kid, so that I know dumb parents aren't going to later on contemplate it and do some soul searching and go introspective and be like, epiphany, right? Let's not make any more dumb kids kind of thing.
Is it kind of like I always used to hear when my kids were little and I was stressed all the time and what's the right thing to do and I don't know if I'm a good mom or not. People used to say, if you are worried about being a good parent, you're probably a good parent.
Exactly.
Like you're considering it and
the
thinking
people
about
that have
it. And
no idea are the dumb.
like when they're
dumb
like, I got this in the bag.
Right.
You're like,
right,
you probably
right.
don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I think, from a political philosophical standpoint, you don't coddle those people, right? You put so much pressure and you put so much, like punishment for being there that they don't want to be there. And it's almost like, their instincts will make them gravitate outside of the zone. So let's just say you had someone who made a bunch of bad life choices, right? They got in with the wrong group. They had a baby in their teens. They'd never had a job, and they're completely dependent on the system, right? You're looking at somebody from your perspective as being in really big peril, and they are not going to have a great existence unless they really break out of that lane, right? Mm-hmm. You could give them wisdom. How eager are they if their bills are paid, they're taken care of, they're just kept floating above dying, right? They're just 2 inches from drowning, right? How eager are they? But if you make it so that that's a struggle and all of the coddling disappear after a certain amount of time, they almost are forced to find you so that you can tell them and teach them how to not exist that way. The welfare state does huge injustice to people finding a path that's probably hard. Like there's no way that that's going to be an easy path after you've made all of those mistakes. But to come back from that is the story of what America is.
Yeah, like, hey, you either got dealt a rough hand or you made some bad choices in your past.
That's right.
And I could choose to say, you're now a victim and there's no going back and this is your life. Or I could say, let's start doing things differently. We're going to climb out of this and make sure you're okay.
Right. Yeah, and everybody makes those mistakes, no matter where you're at on that hierarchy. That you everybody have made mistakes, so everybody can kind of empathize with those people. And I can tell you that you just made the absolute worst mistakes at the worst times, and that's why you are where you're at. So you're gonna have to make completely different shifts in behavior in order to get out of the vein, that rut that you're actually in. And again, it's not personal. Like I'm not, insulting the people who are in there. I encourage all of those people to stop listening to the ones around them. Stop the victimizers that want to give you excuses of why you're there and you can't move out of that. We're still in a marketplace that will accept you into the lower rungs of, this direction where you can find some prosperity in this direction. But you got to listen to those people who need you to be in peril for political reasons, right? They need to have excuses for you, and all you have to do is not believe them.
I can remember I was a young adult, maybe in my 20s, when my mom actually told me once, she's like, you were diagnosed with a mild learning disorder. And I said, what? No, I did not know that. And she's like, oh yeah, in like 5th grade, you saw a psychologist? And I said, I kind of remember that. And she's like, you guys were talking about math and sequencing and things. And she said, you've got a bit of a mild learning disorder that you're going to need some extra help in this area. And I was like, Jesus, Mom, my whole life I thought I was an idiot. Why wouldn't you tell me that? And she's like, because I don't want it to be a crutch. You can't just give up and say, well, I have a mild learning disorder. I can't do it. So I didn't even want you to know. I just wanted you to know this is a challenge for you, so you're going to have to work a little harder until you get it. And I was
I would love to run like 100-person study where we audit that industry, send 100 people there, see how many of them get a disease diagnosis, something that's out of their control, that they're a total victim of some kind of mental disorder, and how many get pharmaceuticals. Of those 100, what would you guess?
Oh, I bet pharmaceuticals all day.
Most of them will have some kind of debilitating disability. Yeah. Right.
And again, here's the internet typing. We're not saying it's bad for everybody or that nobody should have a pharmaceutical or nobody should have medication. We're talking generalities.
Yeah. So listen, the overall Joe philosophy is the longer that something exists, the more likely or the assuredly that something will be corrupted. So if you have a welfare program, you have pharmaceuticals, or you have a church, or you have a government, the longer it exists, do you know what solves this problem, by the way?
What?
The corruption? Death. Nature teaches us
death
good. Renews. Okay, so
yeah.
What happens when a cell lives too long in your body? It corrupts and it turns into a cancer.
Yeah.
So death causes right? Your cells have to die to be replenished by new cells in order for them to not corrupt and create a cancer. So the longer something exists, if you can't tell me where the death happens and the renewed people or the renewed structure happens, then it's cancerous, like almost every time.
I mean, we were talking yesterday about, I sometimes I say social media is a cancer. What was probably meant to bring people together and make things more efficient and make everyone's ability to get closer has become this like dark adult playground of fighting and deceit and misinformation and cruelty. And do you think social media needs to die?
No, it's good. There's even going to be another
turnover,
couple,
maybe
another couple levels to what social media becomes. Because remember, it's just a reflection of us, and the death of us is what's going to renew social media, where it's going to get so bad until it can't get bad anymore, right? And then we're going to find out the balance of what needs to die and what needs to live. And I'm telling you, it'll happen completely naturally. But we always have the choice as human beings to take the short path that just looks at objective truths that are hard and get through the painful things as quick as possible, or make it slow, make it painful, and make it last forever. And we always choose this one. So where it could be pull the Band-Aid off fast, it will never be that. So just buckle up.
I did have two instances yesterday after our show when we were talking about sort of the reframing and don't engage with negative content and only look at positive stuff and all of that. It's so funny. I actually recently saw a post too about somebody commented on a very public news article, and it said, "For the love of God, can we please bring back diaries? Not everything is meant for social media. Sometimes just write it in a diary." And I'm like, that's so perfect. But yesterday I was in two instances where just a member of the general public outside was very inconsiderate and did something that I thought was either very dumb and or inconsiderate to me twice. And my instant reaction is to like, you gotta be such an a-hole to not let someone merge or blah, 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 like whatever it was. And I was like, nope, I refuse. I will not post about it. I will not say anything about it. And in the one instance, I paid the other person a compliment. Looking at them, and instead of saying, what is your effing deal? Why would you park there? You're being so inconsiderate. You're blocking all these people. You're not even going into this business. I could have said all kinds of things. And it was a woman with her dogs. And I was like, oh, they're so cute. And she's like, thank you. And on with my day I went. Do you think any of those actions set off into motion something that could have been detrimental, or it became positive the rest of the day?
Well, I love that you were influencing it and you didn't allow yourself to be the cynic that I want you to be.
I know.
Like, you're still in training. You're like,
yep.
Your dogs smell, they piss everywhere, and you take them into places in public where other people might be allergic. How are you inconsiderate?
Well,
what?
She was taking her dogs to a groomer's.
Okay.
And parked in a business that was not the groomer's. A business I needed to go into. And I was like, there's your parking. This is my parking. I can't go here where I need to go because you want to be inconsiderate and park here where you're not going.
Right.
And it was so annoying. And so as she walked to the groomers, I just said, oh, those are really cute dogs. Oh, thank you. And I went,
have you ever really, I mean, we say Marxism a lot, especially on this show.
Yeah.
Have you ever really read into Karl Marx?
no.
Dude, like so much makes sense when especially Mein Kampf and Karl Marx and like these things you truly disagree with gives you insight into it's not even a minority of people anymore that feel like the philosophies of Karl Marx should be something that should take root. But there are so many things that are happening today that when you watch them domino into what's happening, you're like, listen, is this a natural tendency that this stuff happened? Or are there controlling factors where there are people who are like, Marxism is the way to go, and we are powerful enough to be able to control cultures in order to go in that direction? I wonder that myself. So I'd like you to read into Karl Marx, just look into some of the Marxism and the philosophies that go along with it, and give me your opinion whether or not you see the same thing that I see.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, one of the big things I spend a lot of time on is language. and definitions of words. Like, I am a purist when it comes to what a word means. I know that, there are words that you're going to disagree with. So, for instance, tolerance, right? Mm-hmm. Tolerance has a cost. And when you open up and have unfettered tolerance, right, that is a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
You want to be able to tolerate people are different. But what happens if people are different in a way that are incompatible with how you are and your culture is? Are you still tolerant? And do you have boundaries between, I'm only tolerant in this vein right here, but I'm not tolerant to something in here? So, but in order to overcome that, you have to skew the language. You have to do a lot of gymnastics linguistically. There you go. Linguistically.
That was gymnastics.
Yeah, you have to do a lot of gymnastics linguistically to make that philosophy hold without somebody saying, hey, do we not want to see color? Yeah, we don't want to see color. Across the board? Yeah, across the board. But what about this one right here? Oh, no. That one is not. That one's not seeing color. Even though it's seeing color, it's not really seeing color with an asterisk, right? And those gymnastics are what are like, the younger generation are trying to follow when you give them a definition of the word, but you give them exceptions to the definition of the word. And now the word has no compatibility with the original meaning of the word once was. And our whole language system is jacked up because of the hijacking of words completely.
That's interesting. Eugene says, "What's up, Joe?"
Hey, Eugene.
Natalie says, "Totally agree." And Jerry says, "Sometimes a lot of people give over confidence to that little leader, but the same goes for some people who give certificates or they watch podcasters who get encouraged to continue to act like a child and say things that are wrong or clearly narcissistic toward their listeners."
Jerry's still a little butthurt over, was it Isaac or Luke that took aim at him?
I don't know. What happened? What'd they do to Jerry?
No, there was a back and forth, sarcastic whatever, and one of the shticks of the MLO Bros is that they call people out and tell them, don't listen, right? You don't like us, don't listen, right? And Jerry, total long time listener, big advocate of the show, they just happened to take aim at Jerry. And Jerry's not going anywhere. He's a great contributor, but they had a sick moment where they took aim at a friendly. And I'm apologizing to Jerry on their behalf.
Jerry, do you want me to punch them? Because I will. I will put my peaceful new leaf I've turned over on pause for Jerry.
So are you training in like hand-to-hand combat, or are you doing like you think you can punch somebody? Have you
I've never in my life punched somebody.
Listen. I got called out.
Not seriously.
I got called out one time.
Yeah.
Because when I punch, I lift my thumb, right? I lift my thumb.
Like this?
Yeah, and it's a dangerous thing when you're in combat to lift your thumb, because if you could break it very easily.
Yeah.
It's good to hold it in here and give some structure and rigidity to your knuckles, but I lift my thumb when I punch. I always have. And I feel like I'm faster when I'm punching with my thumbs out. And I got called out a number of years ago that I don't know how to fight because I lift my thumbs. But I've been super good because I'm a small guy, right? When you fight me, we're going to the ground. And I'm going to use my speed and my ability to like take your weapons away from you. And I'm going to get not big like left hooks that I don't have the weight capacity for that, right? I don't have the arm length for that. So I'm going to give you short punches to sensitive areas all day. I will hit you 50 times before you've hit me once. That's my strategy. And so like their methodology of fighting is different than mine, and that's just what's always worked for me. So I don't know how to teach you to fight because I've just got my own way. But if you've never fought before, here's what I recommend.
Okay.
Do you remember Fight Club? Do you remember Fight Club?
I remember a little bit about it. I know the first rule of Fight Club.
So the challenge in Fight Club is you have to get in a fight with a person. So the guy was standing on the sidewalk and he had the hose, and he was cleaning off the sidewalk, and a guy was walking by and he squirted him, right?
Yeah.
And he squirted him again, trying to elicit a fight from somebody else and get his ass beat, because that was the deal. You get in a fight and you needed to lose, right?
Oh.
Yeah, that was the point of
Oh, God.
the exercise. And it was incredibly hard for someone to want to fight you. It took a whole lot for these people to get somebody pissed off enough to want to throw down with you. But that's your exercise. I want you to go out in public, and I want you to try to get yourself in a fight. I want you to throw some punches, but I still want you to lose.
Well, I knew a friend, she took a self-defense class once, and she was saying that the instructor would tell them, like, you cannot take these self-defense classes that just talk about what to do or they motion. Like, one thing is if a guy's got you pinned against the wall, grabbing your neck and he's squeezing your neck, dig your thumbs or fingers right here into their windpipe. And he's like, I'm going to come at you, and you have to really do this. Because you can't pretend and say, okay, so here's where you would push. So if you're ever in the situation, push there. He's like, you have to actually do it, or you're not going to do it in the real thing. You hit me as hard as you can. Don't fake it, or else you'll fake it when it really matters.
Exactly.
And so, and that way you see how hard, like, he said this guy would grab women, push him up against the wall and start squeezing. And he's like, do it. And they were pushing. He's like, nope, not hard enough, not hard enough, not hard enough. And like make you until he was hurt and had to let you go to really experience it. And I've thought about that. Like I remember as a kid, my dad's sort of trying to show us like how to make a fist and where to hit, but I never did. And then years ago, I asked my husband, because he was in the military, I was like, will you make me like Liam Neeson in Taken? I said, I want to learn about physical fighting with my hands, knife, gun, everything. Teach me everything, make me dangerous. And we never did. He gave me one tip on if you have a knife, and I was like, ugh. Nope, never
Julie
did
says,
it.
have you ever been in a fight, Joe? So I lived in a neighborhood that had probably 25 kids that would get together daily, and we'd play sports and games and whatever, and there were personalities that were always warring. There was a kid in my neighborhood, his name was Jack, right? Tall, lanky kid, and sarcastic and didn't care, almost loved getting his ass kicked, and he would always target me. So there was
Jack and Joe.
And there was a daily fight. Now, neighborhood fights are different from I want to hurt you fights, where you're looking to dominate without permanently injuring someone. Like, I didn't want to kill Jack. I didn't want to even hurt Jack. But what I wanted to do is get him on the ground, get him to submit, get him to, like, say, you got me again, right? And so, like, when I was 16, there was a kid that was huge into martial arts, and the real martial arts, not today's martial arts. Like, this was real weaponry, real dominating, dangerous type of maneuvers. And he taught me pressure points, right?
Yeah.
And so pressure points gave you the ability to circumvent what the other person that you're warring with wanted to do, and like make your arm go numb, or make you pass out, or put you in a position where I'm arm locking you, or put you in a position where you thought your leg was going to break, so that you'd submit out super quick, right?
Yeah.
And so that's all we did was practice ground. Like everything ended up on, tumbling around the ground. That is the best way to learn to fight, is once you're like I've boxed, like box fight once, where I was just throwing hands and it wasn't on the ground or anything like that. So all of my strengths weren't used in my I want to hurt you fight. Most of my experience was I got you to the ground, disabled you completely, no matter how big you were, and made you tap out, is really what it comes down to. So I can lock your neck, I can lock your arms, I can lock your legs, I can use pressure points on the armpit and on the neck, on the legs, to make you very, very, very uncomfortable, to the point where you just don't want to fight anymore.
But have you ever felt the need, like, there are some things you could do, I think, to just permanently hurt someone.
Oh, you could. Yeah,
like eye gouging and things of that. Would you, like, never go that route because you knew, like, we are kids here and I'm not going to be a psycho?
In the neighborhood, yeah. We never fight to hurt someone. We fought to just dominate them. But I've had a fight where it was somebody who was, did not have good intentions for me.
So and it was like legit self-defense.
Yeah, I was willing to go there. I didn't have to go there because it was just a boxing match, and I hit him in the eye so many times that he could barely see, and he was flailing around and whatever. But if it ever came to, like, someone threatened my family, like, I'd rip your eyeball out in 2 seconds, feed it to you, slash it. I would do anything possible to protect in that kind of scenario.
Yeah, I think the only situations I've ever been in where I thought, is there a true potential of me of like throwing hands right now? Was probably in a bar. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I can think of one instance where I'm like, everybody here would know that I have the right to throw hands on this person right now. Mm-hmm. Nobody would hold it against me. Like, I could totally get away with this. It was that warranted. But obviously it didn't. I threatened the person and they walked away. Thank God.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Matthew says, never fight with knives if you have a choice. It's a losing situation. If you have to get out,
if you have
block
to get
the
cut.
backs of your arms, less chance you'll get an artery hit. Well, no, if let's just say I was with my family and somebody had a knife, right? The deal is that you don't need to square up with someone who has a weapon. You know what you do? You run.
Run
away, right?
Yeah.
And you only fight. Like, you want to put someone at the position that has a weapon, that they're not a garrison for their weapon, right? When you square up with them, like, they have the advantage. They're in position that they have an advantage over you. But if you can pull them out of most of winning and fighting is to use whatever advantage against someone. If you can bring them off of, say, their center of gravity, or you can make them chase you. But if they're here and they are ready, right, they have it pointed at you, you coming at them is only going to get yourself hurt. So I would run.
And his tip was more if I'm the one with a knife, how to do it. And I was like
how to stab someone?
Yeah. Like, it's more than just, like, he used to be like, you got to go in and twist. And I was like, we're done here. We're done.
So
We're done.
what I do with my kid is when we get some Amazon boxes, that is my human being analog. And so we practice, like, when you have a knife, right? The body is not as, like, what you see in the movies, as soft and cushy going in.
Is this conversation going to make me woozy?
There's bone and muscle.
Okay.
And so, like, when you stab, you don't have a weapon that has a hand guard, right? So it's very likely that you make a stab and your hand moves forward over the same blade that you're stabbing into somebody.
There's no way YouTube is okay with this conversation. Well, go on.
I said stab. That's something they say on probably Blue's Clues.
I'm sweating. I'm so uncomfortable.
So anyway,
right
a steak knife is not going to be your best friend when it comes to, to this type of scenario. So what we do is we grab boxes, and first we do knife throwing, right? So if we had to create some distance and we wanted to make sure that the pointy side hit the box, like, we get used to, at different distances, getting rotation so that it hit blade side on the box, right?
Yeah.
And so after we do the knife throwing, then we do the stab part of it, where we try to make a stab on a box, which is very forgiving, right?
Yeah.
And then we make it harder by putting a couple of boxes that are there just to feel the resistance when you're entering into a piece of cardboard, how much the knife wants to come back at you, right? And what those need to be. So there's a lot of testing and practice that you need to do. So that if you had it, like, when I see a scary movie where someone, like, goes to the knife board and pulls one out, I'm like, you're going to hurt yourself more than what you think you're going to do to the other person.
Well, even like with a firearm, I remember one time my husband, and this was so many years ago, we're not even in this house, so I got to figure it out now, but he was talking about, okay, let's say we're laying in bed where our bedroom was in the distance to the front door. Someone comes in that door, here's what you do. Roll out of the bed, get on the floor, use this big bed as sort of a shield, put it over the bed, and shoot this way. And part of me is like, it's been so long since I've even practiced that I am almost like, let's do this first. How do I just get out? Like, let's make that last resort, and first resort is get the hell out of there. What's our route then? Because I don't know.
Well, I would suggest practicing it, just like you do fire drills. If something happened in different locations of your house, plan what your exit would be. And first and foremost is just getting the hell away from everything is number one. So if you can just escape and get family safe, like, I don't care if you steal my TV. If you had a gun, I'm not putting my life in jeopardy for property, right?
Yeah.
But if I'm cornered in a room, I want to make sure that room that I, theoretically would be cornered in, I have advantage if you come into my space, period.
Yeah, because my biggest fear is knowing the kids are somewhere else in the house and me not wanting to blindly shoot. And so that that plays a real fear of me even attempting to go for a firearm where an intruder is. But what if the kid runs out of their bedroom or something of that nature? And, God, I don't even want to think about it.
All right, let's change topics. What do you want to talk about today?
Do you remember what your husband's job was in the military? Yes, I do remember. So yeah,
Black Ops, total Black Ops.
I was proud of myself yesterday, though, that I took two situations. I made it positive instead of screaming about it. Everything I watched, if I saw that it was something, that was going to get my blood pressure up, I was like, nope, not doing it. With the exception of one video I saw, and I could not help but watch it again. Because I'm just like, come on.
Does that mean you are no longer committed to the promise that you made?
Oh, no, I'm very committed. Okay. I'm very committed. But I happened to be served a short.
And had to watch it?
Well, it came.
Does this mean that you're starting over again?
Listen,
reset button?
No. I still see things. I've not yet changed my algorithm to not see things. But I don't need to, send it to someone look, see, I told you. And I don't need to, read all the comments and get fired up about it. I don't need to spend my day on it. I just go, okay. And I go and I look at something else that's happy.
Okay.
And it was Pam Bondi in her little, what do you even call that? Is that a hearing?
Yeah.
God, speaking of dumb, those things are dumb. Those things are absolute waste of time.
Were you proud of your country in that hearing?
No, God, no. I was like, it's a schoolyard is what those are. It's
now,
kids on a
who's
schoolyard.
responsible for that? Do you think the Democrats were the first to make it schoolyard, or do you think the Republicans were?
Oh, I don't even know. I think they all do it. I don't know who the first was, but I've never seen a Senate hearing that was anything other than pointless. I don't understand why we do them. Is it just like a box we have to check, like a formal, whatever? Well, we're required as a formality to hold this, knowing we're going to leave here having no more information about whatever it is we're meeting about.
So here's the thing. Britain is much older than we are. Much, 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 much older. And in the 80s, 90s, go back and watch what Parliament was like. The House of Lords and what the decorum was like. Do you think they just sat there very sophisticated and had highbrow type of conversations? Or do you think it was rabble, 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 everybody screaming, everybody acting foolishly and whatever? Which do you think those two?
I feel like there was probably more decorum than we have now.
Listen, they definitely lifted their pinky when they drank tea, but they were not civilized in those parliament. And so government, we need to fight. Government is all about the push and pull of disconnected and disagreeing ideas. And so you need to have fight. If you ever saw a hearing where you had two sides that were warring against one another and they just tried to play nice, you would also think nothing got done there because everybody was just trying to play nice. You almost need a brawl to think that there was anything that was, the Democrats have to feel that their people pushed up against something they disagree with. And you had to feel Republicans had to push back in the same, same
Yeah,
vein.
they don't want their side to be like, well, what are you doing? Why didn't you push on this? And why didn't you ask about this?
If I were there, I would have done X, Y, Z. And that's exactly what we have. We have true representation. I feel like if I were there or you were there, we would be in the same mode that those people were. And I don't want them to be, useless. I would rather them fight because at least if they're fighting, they're not ruining things. So have at it. Now, what we think of people that are above us, they're authorities over our lives and control of whatever, that are smart and they're capable and they're sophisticated. We hope they're smarter and better than us.
And what they do makes so much sense that they have no issue just showing it to you.
They really put their heart and soul in things. But in reality, they're just people. And so if Bob down the street who drinks beer on his porch every night and, watches the sunset, think of him and what he would do when he's in Congress, and that's what we get. And it'll get every year, it'll be more of a better reflection of how the public wants to be represented in Congress. We're getting exactly what we want, and it's embarrassing as shit that that's our reflection.
It's like reality TV.
It is.
Matthew says, we used to have sticks to beat each other with in U.S. Congress a long time ago. Things are a lot more civilized now.
Yeah.
Really?
It's more civilized, but dumber. Like the dumbest version of everything. So, okay, you're in a hearing, right? And your whole job is everyone who registers gets to ask you some questions, right? And as the public, we're like, all we want to know is information. Grill me on the pro side, grill me on the con side, and then we'll weigh whatever you're saying. But the personality conflicts that have there, it's almost like if you saw Yasmin Crockett. I think it's Jasmine, but I like Yasmin. It sounds more. Jasmine Crockett having a back and forth with Pam Bondi. What if Jasmine Crockett decided to put, the personality, the theater aside, and just said, my constituents want to know X, so I'm going to ask you X, and then you're going to respond with whatever your answer is, and I'm going to take your response back. And if I don't like the answer, I'll push against it for more clarity. And if you don't give clarity, I'm going to take that back to my constituents. Now you have the actual post of being a representative. That's what we expect. But instead, we had a question that was asked in bad faith, an answer that was given in bad faith, completely theater for the clicks of what's going to happen on social media. And the constituents are like, I don't know anything more, but watch them fight.
Yeah, it's almost like their answers and questions are just, I'm trying to not look like a pushover. I really want to look like the tough person here and the one that's giving it to them. But that's all. That's all it is. We're not actually getting any information.
Yeah.
Julie says the hearings are meant to get information. Q&A, that is not the case lately.
Amen.
Faux show.
I don't even watch them anymore. Like I watched a couple snippets, but I used to have
I
it tuned
only
in when I was driving.
2 little bits from
and it's such
social
BS
media.
because I don't like the drama. I don't like the fighting. I just like truth and data, and I get none of that when I listen to those. So total disappointment.
For sure. I don't know how Pam Bondi hasn't been held in contempt yet. Not only has she lied, she was argumentative and not followed a court order to release all the files.
Still hanging on to that release all the files thing, are you? Tom Massey is freaking on it, though. He is freaking on it. Like, he is my best friend at this point because he is not taking shit from anybody.
Do you think Massey's going to run for president?
I hope not. He's so needed there. Every good, seat holder is somehow want to become more, and we end up losing them when we absolutely need to stay there.
So you think he could do more good if he stays
there
put?
For sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Speaking of contempt, anything new with the Clintons?
No, they are going to testify. They've agreed with stipulations about the the rules of how they're going to testify. And I'm looking forward to it. Like, again, like most of us that have a side that listen to the show. Like, you want it to be all Bill Clinton and Bill Gates on one side, and you all want it to be Steve Bannon and Trump on the other side. Kelin and I just want everybody who's refuse, right? Everybody who needs to go down, just make it happen. Tear the Band-Aid off. I don't give 2 shits who goes down. I just want them to go down.
Yeah, because I've seen a lot of headlines lately saying, I don't know if they said Bondi said this or somebody said, if every single person involved was prosecuted, the system would just crash.
Yeah.
And people
would
are
you
like,
be willing
then
to
crash
deal with
it.
that? And it deserves to be crashed. If that's what the outcome is. It's like there's, if the Catholic Church is so corrupt that the Catholic Church would cease to exist, you have to decide whether or not the Catholic Church having to rebuild after it puts itself together, or just allow it to be a corrupt version of it and do no good. Like, that's not an easy choice, right? But the principled people say, if you did something, you should have thought of not corrupting it because you risk losing it before you get caught for it, not after you get caught for it.
So what would that look like if everybody involved, who is also still a very essential part of running our daily government, suddenly lost their job?
Think about war times, right?
Yeah.
We had to change the scope of what government was responsible for because the conditions on the outside of government changed. So we would go into a wartime footing. And let's just say half of Congress is gone, right? They're arrested, they're implicated, they're under trial, they have to recuse themselves. Now we don't have adequate representation. Then we go martial law, we go wartime footing, and we protect the interests of the United States with the least amount of resources that are possible. We don't do any ancillary programs or anything, whatever. We're going to be in crisis. And so we protect the institution as it is supposed to exist, and no more than is necessary to keep it alive.
Yeah, because my biggest fear would be if everything crumbled, any of our enemies, any other country would be like, they are at their most vulnerable. Let's strike now. Because who's the commander in chief? Who's guiding their military?
That's why we need to be on a war footing, because that we're at our most vulnerable when we just basically take half of our representatives and put them in prisons. Now we're unrepresented. We don't have the functions to be able to. Now, granted, we had a president that was lost his mind, right? And we still operated. So the behind-the-scenes people are completely capable of keeping us running. So don't think...
As long as the behind-the-scenes people are not also part of it.
Right, and that's fine. There are enough... I think they give themselves too much credit that government, and it's a big thing and takes a lot of people, but I think they're so incompetent that if you ripped half of them out of there, I bet you that it would even run better because you wouldn't have all of the obstacles of having brain-dead people pulling the levers. So I'm not convinced that it would be the crisis. Like if you made the argument, either we go into crisis, our government, falters or gets in a whatever, versus protecting them just for the sake of our government. I'm taking let's rip the Band-Aid off and do this.
Yeah, because there's got to be measures in place that you could start doing step by step to start setting yourself up for how it's going to transition when you know all these other people are about to go down. And the fact that there is none of that, and all it is talking of, we couldn't, it would be such a mess. Well, then...
Make it a mess.
Start the process.
Make it a mess. We're in.
Yeah.
We're voting here. Let's see. Matthew says, as a liberal person, Massey is a welcome person across the aisle. And, John Fetterman, same thing. When they do the unpopular thing, like breaking ranks and do what they think is right, and I might disagree with John Fetterman on a lot of stuff, but he has the courage to be able to stand up for whatever his principles are. And it's not just because they align with me, knowing just that there's a person that's willing to stand up for that takes a lot.
Yeah.
Carter says, why ask questions and never allow an answer? Another example is why sodium pentothal is needed. I like that idea. I live in Kentucky, and the people here do not like Massey and will never win another election. So he's got a lot to do, because if he's going to push back against the status quo, he's not going to make a lot of friends that way. And in politics, it's
why don't they like him? Because he pushes back, or? Well,
he got elected with Trump support and Trump supporters, and he pushes against the president a ton. Like pushback
so diehard Trump supporters wouldn't like him.
Do not like him because he pushes against Trump and doesn't go along with it. And I feel in politics, it's good to have, the Democrats are really good about voting in a big block and never breaking out. And the Republicans are terrible at that. They have too many outside the tent or in different tents, but they're technically Republicans, and they make it really hard to put together a contingent of group voting.
Yeah, you sort of have to have that good balance of, I do have support for a set of ideals, and I want to be supportive and loyal to something, but also push back if that something is wavering and not making sense and not doing the right thing. I could see if someone's like, they're a traitor to their party. They said all this, they got elected, and then they did this. Whereas the voters want to see you stick to what they voted for, but also question your party. Tell them when they're wrong.
In order to get elected, you need your party for their support, and then they own you so that you have to toe the party line in order to continue being elected. Where the two-party system, that's where it breaks down, is because you need them and you have to do that. And once you're owned, now you're not a free thinker. You're just an extension of the party that you joined. Like in the UK, they are this close to breaking their two-party system. I believe it's the Reform Party that has a better than a coin flip chances of adding a third party in there to disrupt all of that
Yeah,
shit.
that's what I keep saying. Why don't we do that?
Yeah, we're not close to it, but
I think it's more of a possibility than it used to be.
you look at all the people who have switched to independent, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's only you could probably only name one or two where they had a successful career maintaining independent party or libertarian party or whatever. You can only name a couple of them. So it is not going to be a
Yeah.
popular thing when all I have to do to get elected, where I need to do major fundraising, is swear allegiance to my party and then
Yeah.
they take care of me and somehow say, okay, I got elected now. F you guys.
Because anybody, I can think of a handful, anybody that was trying to stay middle ground either got pushed out completely, and after a debate or two, nope, you're totally gone, or eventually had to pick a side.
Yeah, Bernie,
All of
for instance.
them.
Bernie's a great example.
Bernie had to.
Right? He went
Yep.
independent, and then he was supposed to be their nominee. He was supposed to be in the mix, and he got railroaded on two separate occasions when, had popular support, and the Democratic Party said "F you" because of what he
Yeah.
wasn't aligned anymore.
I don't remember a whole lot about him, but I remember being curious about Andrew Yang years ago.
Yeah.
And he didn't even get the opportunity to pick a side.
But he went off the reservation. I had a lot
Did
of
he?
respect for him during the that election cycle. Smart guy, business oriented, believed in just enough social programs that I felt like it was, when you have a social program that is break glass in case of emergency, I'm totally with that. Like big safety nets. But as long as those safety nets work against ambitions of people and then sort of like capture them, that's when I start disagreeing with. And I felt like he was a glass break type of social program guy, but he went off the reservation and went full socialism.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that was disappointing.
Oh.
And maybe it's just because the role he has to play, he's thinking about next election cycle and how he has to align to get the support of the Democrats, is to toe that party line, and I don't know. But he's a good dude.
Eventually,
and a
you'll
smart
get
guy.
pushed to a side.
Yeah, but smart guys, good dudes, do not get elected.
Yeah. I think most Dems want all the perps to face justice. These crimes should not be partisan.
But they are 100% partisan.
Purge all
and,
of
and
them.
really, Julie, you're reasonable. When you read a release of the Epstein files that is supposed to include 1,000 people who did wrong things, and you cherry pick two of them that happen to be Republicans out of there and make them the crown jewel of the Epstein files, you're captured. You're being fed captured information. If you had 100 names that were released and they were about 50-50 on each side, then you're getting a real demonstration of what the Epstein files entails.
I saw a video this week, and I don't know the source. This could be a rumor. This could be AI fabricated. I do not know. Have you heard that I guess it has come to light that Trump is actually the one who called the police on Epstein?
That's the second time that I've heard this, and you got to look at it from sort of like the context of where he was at when all this stuff went down. He was nowhere near politics, but he was influential in real estate in New York, in Florida. So for him to have been called into those social circles is a high probability. So if you say he met 15,000 times with Jeffrey Epstein, I would agree that probably freaking happened, along with a bunch of other people that were in those same kind of circles. So it's less meaningful because I want to get to not people like I want the gate to be anybody that was there is a suspect, and then let's let evidence say who did bad things or knew bad things were happening would be something where I would start condemning you for that. And so I heard both, who was it? Johnson, who slipped up and said that he was a narc on Epstein in a press
I don't
conference
know.
maybe 4 or 5 months ago. And then recently where he, called the cops and got the police involved because he was a bad dude, evil dude, and whatever. But it feels a lot like we're taking what should be sort of objective fact finding, and we're trying to create villains and heroes. And I think that might be the right's way of say, look, he wasn't part of it. He was Elliot Ness in this scenario.
Oh yeah, 100%. None of the people that have any control over this, meaning have seen the files, could be in the files, or part of releasing the file. Anybody that is in any way tied to this at all is doing it for justice sake. Everything has been, let's see who is in it. Let's see who's named. Who can we point a finger at? You versus me. Are there more Dems in it? Are there more Republicans in it? It's like a game.
Yeah, right. All right. So here now, let's just say you have two representatives. You have Nancy Mace and Lorna Bobbitt, right? These are two people.
Lorena Bobbitt?
Not Lorena Bobbitt. Boebert.
I was like, how did she get involved?
Whatever her name is.
I don't even know.
So basically, they had two press conferences where they saw the original files unredacted, right? And they basically said there are parliamentarians, international leaders, business, everybody is in there. So now I'm looking at a person doing a press conference that they have seen the unredacted names. They did it in closed session, like they did it in a room where the media wasn't a part of, but now they know. Now, if you know, right, and I want to know, how can I make you that now know tell me? Like, is it incumbent on a representative that now knows something that everybody wants to know? Now, do you give them some say, oh, you can't say anything about it now because we're going to pursue the judicial way, like the law enforcement way, and say you can't talk about it because you don't want to undermine a case and you don't want to wreck somebody actually going to prison over it? Fine. If you see indictments and if you see grand juries and if you see perp walks, then I'll give you grace. But why the media is not saying, what now that you've seen those, what's the next step, right?
Yeah.
Has it been referred to the Department of Justice? Are they pursuing it? Are they putting cases together? Or now you know it, you can't say anything about it. We know that you know it, and now nothing's going to happen.
Yeah. That's it.
Frustrating as shit.
Would you ever want to be the person that knows everything? Would you fear for your life?
Yes.
I would too.
Yeah. I would want to know it, but I also know that there'd be a lot of people that want to kill me because I know it.
You know people have told them that. By the way, everybody in there knows that you know.
Mm-hmm.
So good luck. I gotta admit, I might keep my mouth shut too. I don't know.
Let's read some comments here. There was not a peep about Epstein when Biden was president. They don't care about the victims. They just want it's all theater. Like Kelin and I have said from the absolute beginning that all of the evidence that could put people in prison are protected by CIA, FBI. These were international leverage campaigns and totally protected. Any evidence that could put somebody in prison long ago disappeared. So Matt said the investigation was still active, and I hope that's the case, Matthew. Tom said, I can see now, a few months from now, WKBN posts an article that Flis has defeated Kovacs by 3 votes, and all that local politicians do is call MLO bros idiots. Meanwhile, they're the most influential in the area. I can't see you running for politics.
Heck no!
I don't see that one.
God, no.
Yeah.
I'm so stressed out that I can't look at negative stories on social media, and you think I'm going to run for any sort of political position?
Julie
no.
says the unredacted files that Congress saw were still heavily redacted. This is getting ridiculous, and it will stay ridiculous. I have zero faith. I honestly think that there will be maybe a dozen people that take the fall that were outside of that sphere of influence, but nobody meaningful on the inside of that influence sphere will ever be prosecuted for it. I still believe that to this day.
And so this might seem like a silly question. So we have heard when people get in this argument of like, oh, why didn't Biden administration do anything? And then it's, well, the investigation was still ongoing and it was still active. Are we to assume that now, today, the investigation is complete? It is totally done?
I compare that to Minnesota, right? They found fraudulent daycares, right, that were working the system over. Okay. Mm-hmm. And in their normal pursuit of investigations, Rizzo wasn't finding anything. Like, they were citing people every once in a while, and there was a couple people that actually went to court and whatever. But then when it was illuminated by an outside person, all of a sudden you saw the Department of Justice rush in and make it a priority. So you got to think, like, if there's no public pressure to do something, Department of Justice kind of just plays the partisan route as well. They're not, like, I always wonder if you've got cases that are stacked on a pile on your desk, right? Mm-hmm. And you're the Department of Justice. Do they handle those like IRS audits, or to just take them in the order that they were received, or how they get to them, versus one that the president pays attention to, and all of a sudden that's at the top of the stack, which means they can keep things buried forever and never actually get to them because there's an infinite amount of things that can be investigated. Now you think, like, if you've got corrupted politics, you could pick and choose out of that pile and allow some of them to sit in that stack forever, even if they've been referred into somebody. You just might not ever get to them, kind of thing. And so, like, I feel like if there's an investigation without public pressure, or we don't know anything about it, it's just a snail's crawl. And the only things that have political pressure get to the top of the pile and we do anything about.
So is it an ongoing investigation?
I don't think it is. I don't think it becomes an ongoing investigation until there's pressure.
So meaning, for all intents and purposes, it's closed case, it's done. We have everything we need. Okay. We just aren't sharing it with you.
We got two assets. We've got Ghislaine Maxwell, and we've got some of the people are still willing to testify in public, right? We got those two groups. Ghislaine Maxwell, she's asking for immunity, and she will testify, right? So is it possible to take what she says and indict people over? Can we take those whistleblowers and those girls that were affected, and can we use them as witnesses to do indictments? Because if I have a group of 50 women who say they were there and they can name names, but I can't put anybody in prison, I would put myself in mortal danger if I spoke up and I wasn't assured that the justice system was going to take it serious enough. Would you have faith that if you said it, put yourself out there, that you know the justice system would just go in there, rush in, and put somebody in prison?
Yeah,
versus saying a bunch of you have got hit by buses and committed suicide yourself, right?
Yeah.
And would you want to be in that peril when you don't trust the government to come through on?
I mean, supposedly there were some victims in this Senate hearing that all stood up and raised their hands. Like, somebody had asked, is anybody here as a victim that has tried to meet with Bondi and was denied a meeting? And they all, like, raised their hands and stuff. And so they're putting themselves out there.
Heck yeah. And Bondi is a massive disappointment when it comes to this topic. Massive. If she got fired tomorrow, I'd celebrate.
Oh yeah, there's a reason they don't want this to come to light.
Yeah. And I was hopeful. I was hopeful, but we're talking about politics, so. Let's see. Pam Bondi and Kash Patel originally said there was nothing else to be done and they were not going after anyone. I think when they looked at the trove, if anything that would already been collected, they can create indictments out of. But I think if they did new investigation and they brought the new trove out and they reinvestigated it and they brought new witnesses, I think they could make something. But again, I have no hope that the really good stuff has long been gone. Joe, we have a lot of accusations of people knowing that bad things have happened in schools, and many administrations, coaches, teachers, and parents more than likely know what was going on, but have not come forward. Are they all just as guilty? That's the danger. When we take people who may have not done anything and we use them as fodder for politics, it puts the fear in the hearts of anybody else that would stand up, knowing that they were going to, no matter what side you're on, if you're somebody who thinks we need to insulate, and I know there are people out there, you pick the right person and they want to insulate that person from the accusation on both sides. And so, like, that's why I think it's going to come to a screeching halt, because I don't trust that those witnesses are going to have anything of action happen because they put themselves in that.
Because, I mean, and you see this everywhere. I mean, you see this in, like, local crime. If there's a local crime and all the people in that area know what went down, they can threaten people. Like, don't you dare go to the police or I'll come after you too. And Elon Musk was like, I uncovered so much information, I could never say it or I would be killed. Like, I mean, that's at a whole new level of not just possible, but you would probably believe this will happen if I say anything.
Major injustice. Julie says victims are begging to testify. This admin won't talk to them. And Jerry says Maxwell hearing appeal was reason Biden couldn't release the Epstein files. Yeah, it's a cluster. Like I can't even explain it. I can only tell you what's going to happen. That you're going to have a couple of fall guys that don't even matter, going to try to get it so that they release everything. And it's, come on, there are 3 million documents, right?
Yeah.
How many people were looking for certain things? Did you yesterday? They were they had the documents searchable, right? So they put them in digital form and gave some of these representatives the ability to look through them. And they were tracking what they were looking up, what they were searching in the documents. That's meaningful. Like, I know, how do you feel about that, by the way, tracking what someone's looking up?
I like that. That, I think, can uncover a lot of information. Like, why are you only looking at this and not this? Or what's your angle here for going that route?
Yeah, if you're not being objective and you're just using the files to go after one of your political enemies, then what you say doesn't carry a lot of weight. But if you just had someone that was looking into everything and wasn't specifically cherry picking,
so would you say like the one day we talked about the names and somebody was like, well, Trump's name was mentioned this many thousand times in this long of a document. Would you say, why do you even know that? Why are you searching how many times his name is in there, but we don't know how many times someone else's name is in there? You would say you're cherry picking, like, show me where you searched everybody's name, or show me where you searched how many times somebody in another country's name was in there. Like, is that kind of what you mean? Is they're looking at information almost to build a case against somebody instead of everybody?
Targeting a single person rather than what the rest of us want is, I don't want to target a single person. I just want to know who was guilty. Film footage, still pictures, eyewitness testimony, things that place people doing things that are illegal and need to go prison for them. So if I went on the tarmac and I met with somebody and I didn't do anything illegal, even if my name was mentioned somewhere, that doesn't freaking matter because it doesn't check my box. Did I do anything illegal? Now, if I went on the tarmac, that is an investigator's curiosity to look to see how deep I went into the regular versus criminal. I mean, this guy was a socialite. He had massive parties. So for majority of people in that sort of like crust of the hierarchy to be included in having been there or whatever is massive. There's a ton of people. But how many people were compromised, did things that were should lead them into prison? That's the real question. So saying XYZ was in the files means absolutely nothing to me.
This is a weird random question, and there may not be an answer. I'm sort of thinking out loud. But if we have found ourselves in this situation where there will never be justice for these victims,
right?
Powers that be are too powerful. They're too numerous.
Right.
They're never going to release everything.
Correct.
And we can all kind of come to the realization they got away with it.
Yes.
Is there anything the American people can do for these victims? Is there anything we can do to be like, they're not going to make it right, we're going to do whatever we can? I guess
what I would say is, does a structure exist today where another Epstein is happening right now? So if you can ensure me and the victims that this isn't even a possibility, that we don't, chain of custody and investigators, if they're all compromised, dispatch them. So if we have to just take all of the people who contributed to why we can't prosecute anybody and get effing rid of them, so we have a new crop of investigators, FBI agents, CIA. If we don't know who's corrupt, we're going to say, we're getting rid of all of you and start over fresh.
How do we do that?
Create a new agency and have them completely separate from the rest of the FBI or the CIA or the people that are part of investigating this.
Do we have the power to do that?
Yeah, you can create a new one. Absolutely.
Like, can like citizens create one?
No, citizens are not going to. They need
so
the
again,
power.
We need the powerful, the people in position.
But there are enough of them that if you wanted to, so for instance, we had Space Force, right? Mm-hmm. Space Force was created to in a brand new branch of the military that didn't exist before. So right now we know that the FBI and the CIA do criminal acts for the sake of national security. and we don't want that to happen. So what's that CSI? Don't they create those legal shows that are sex crimes or something like that?
Like Law and Order?
Yeah, Law and Order. That's
yeah,
it.
SVU.
SVU. So
Yeah.
we create a faction of brand new people that only investigate human trafficking and sex crimes. And FBI has no more purview in that department, so they're completely eliminated from something they managed very unwell, right? And get them out of that segment.
So, like, who's Tim Tebow working with? He's doing a lot with sex trafficking and stuff.
Yeah. Privately, they're doing investigations, but they still ultimately have to turn it over to law enforcement. They're just almost like Nick Shirley. Like, he did it privately, but he didn't have enforcement powers, so he had to turn that over to authorities that had to take it
So
from
you
there.
do eventually have to go to the higher ups.
Correct. Yep.
So we need new higher ups.
We need new higher ups.
How do we do that when the higher ups are the ones voting on if we get a
create
new
those
one?
new agencies that are not siloed within those other people. So if you had...
So you need higher ups that are not captured.
Exactly. You need new ones that have not
Yeah.
yet to be captured.
It's going to be tough. Because we've talked so many times, like, you get a candidate, you can get them in there, and then they say, you're not going to last if you don't play a game. It's like you got to be smart enough to last, but not become corrupted. Good luck with that.
I'm telling you, it's not an easy path whatsoever.
Yeah.
But you can't fix the FBI and the CIA because they have ongoing things that they would justify as protecting us from things. Even if, like, our motorcycle gang guy, right? He would say that, he may have shot somebody and he might have done some cocaine, but it was because we want to take down the deal. So if you disband that you're saying that we don't want to take down the cartel motorcycle gang because we're unwilling to do the cocaine and shoot some guy on the street kind of thing. And that's what this FBI and CIA will do. So let's just say, Epstein brought a guy from, I don't know, Ecuador, and he took him to the island and got a bunch of pictures of him, and he did illicit things, and Epstein gave the CIA that stuff, and now we own the Ecuadorian whatever, right?
Yeah.
Now, would you trust that the CIA then, in that pursuit, in that operation, now doesn't care about national security because they had to do illegal things? Which more important, the breaking the law, right, or the national security? And we've always deferred to national security over breaking the national law, federal law.
Yeah, like if Maxwell's the only person to blow this wide open, would you give her immunity to speak?
I would. Because it's really the only remaining person that is not dead that could speak from personal experience, not hearsay.
And you'd have to tell the victims, I realize she did horrific things to you, but she suffers and nobody else, or everybody and not her.
You have to. And I can't believe she's still alive. I really can't.
I know.
I know.
I've been thinking the same thing.
I think those people, though, feel that she is so uncredible in her testimony, the lies that she will tell, that any prosecution, right, will not be able to carry anything she says through. The defense will tear her up.
Or Epstein's not dead. He's in hiding.
Wouldn't that be amazing if we could pull first?
What if we found him?
Mm-hmm. With John McAfee hidden in the beach. You remember John McAfee?
That name sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Who's John McAfee?
John's awesome. Like, I know he did a lot of bad things, and, he was a crass guy and hard to listen to, but he said a lot of truthful things. So, anyway.
Like, if anything comes to light, it's going to be one of those, like, young, self-investigative reporting type of, like the kid that went around and was investigating fraud, but he wasn't part of our government. He was just a little private entity kind of thing.
See, but that I think that would work. Like, in the Wild West, they used to, like, deputize people all the time. I mean, the regulators were a really, like, they weren't exactly straight and narrow. They had the badge, but they didn't exactly act badge-like. But wouldn't you love to have vigilante deputized, with some enforcement power?
Because I don't think it's the only time something was blown wide open on a whim from somebody, not the organization going after it. I think that happens all the time.
Let's read some comments here.
There's some from above. From above.
There will not be anything in the files that already hasn't been reported. Trump has
Duked?
all conservatives. They are no longer the party of law and order. Way too powerful, and we'll have to realize that at some point, I wish we would have an open hearing. Yeah, I'm with you, and I don't think that will happen at all. We have to get rid of the entire government. I'm with you there. So if it collapses and we get to rebuild it and we get to re-elect things, we would have to be super sure that we didn't put any of the swamp people back in there.
Yeah.
Justin saying
Impeachment of Trump. If you didn't already try to impeach him 50 freaking times already, that I would halfway listen to you. But okay, more the same. You just don't like the guy, and you want him not to be there anymore in one way or another. Who will lead this agency and put it together? We couldn't trust the administration to do this. So it's got to be an Elliot Ness type of thing. You got to get somebody who cannot be compromised. You need somebody who isn't beholden to anybody.
Like, could you take like Massey, Fetterman, whoever else, and be like, guys, start organizing, get something going, or they don't have the power to even do that?
I mean, you'd have to pick somebody that, I mean, do you think, let's just say you get one election cycle in the future and Massey settles down and he doesn't put, like, he could be mad about one thing and his pushback is theatrical where he's just going against Trump because of a bad interaction. I don't know that he's fully trustworthy. He can be objective because I saw Massey prior to this. He was outspoken, but he wasn't this committed to pushing against the status quo on principle. So I'm not bought into complete Massey perpetually. The current Massey, I have a lot of appreciation for. So I don't. Again, you'd have to. How did they pick Elliot Ness to put him in charge?
What about what's his name? What's his name? Come on. The guy that we say also seems to kind of always make sense and glasses, dark hair. Oh my God, Rand Paul.
All right, Rand Paul's pretty up and up. I would consider
start
it.
something.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I want to pick somebody that is unknown, right? That doesn't have any even, like, I would go to a small, town in Texas in the middle of the desert that has a population of 40 people that, is old school, principled, doesn't give two shits, speaks the truth, be unpalatable, like a Tom Homan, right? But has zero connections to the outside world. I'd pick that person over an established politician any day.
Well, we would all pick it. But again, doesn't he ultimately have to get to a higher level where the people we don't trust will have say over what he can do?
Mean, in those, the executive branch controls that. So if you wanted to form a new Space Force, all they would have to do is be nominated by the executive branch and go before Congress to have their nominations approved. So you'd have to survive that.
Yeah.
But you could take a no-name for sure.
Interesting.
Truly, Trump is a double agent. Raskin asked Bondi if she would allow an independent committee to investigate. She said no. Julie says, have either of you seen any of the photos or videos or testimony of the victims? If so, how could we ever let it go? Yeah, if those are legitimate and those aren't drummed up by outside sources and they're giving real accounts, then it is a shame and an embarrassment that we're not prosecuting the offenders.
Which is why I'm like, if we can't, what can we do?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Suck it up. Wait for the next distraction to take it off of the front page.
Do everything we can to see that it doesn't happen again.
I'm telling you, when it comes off the front page every Friday, I make mention of it to remind everybody that they need to keep on it, keep that pressure on.
Don't let it die.
Yep. Jerry says there's a conspiracy theory that Epstein autopsy did not show his tattoo on his arm, which he did have one.
Yeah, I saw that photo.
Yeah.
And I looked at both arms to see if the tribal band was on the autopsy photos, and it definitely was not.
Do the photos seem legit to you? Nothing doctored or AI?
You can't ever tell. Like, that fodder just is meant, it could be there just as a distraction, where I could tell AI to strip the tattoos off, and it could do that. I could do that manually in Photoshop. So
is it possible he could be hidden?
could with John McAfee on a beach somewhere. in a bunker.
Maybe they even
under the
know
beach.
surgeons that could have changed his face, be in witness protection the rest
but
of
it
his
wouldn't even
life.
be that hard. I could just superimpose a face on top of a different body very easily.
No, but I'm saying if he's gonna live out his life, he's got a pretty recognizable face, and
Right.
everybody will be talking about him for years to come. If I had a bunch of money, I may hit up a plastic surgeon, do a little tweak. Doesn't
yeah.
take much. Look at Jennifer Grey.
Right.
Got a nose job and she's
Right,
unrecognizable.
but hold on. Like, you would think if somebody went witness protection and they wanted to hide Jeffrey Epstein, and you don't think that when they made the autopsy they would make it identical? That seems too incompetent even for them.
I don't know if we're talking about the same thing. What do you mean?
So if I wanted to take Jeffrey Epstein and I wanted to create a body double that was going to pass as Jeffrey Epstein through an autopsy,
Yeah.
you don't think I would have paid attention to body markings and ink that they had done, not just facial features, but the rest of the body, and said, oh, we need to slap a tattoo on this dead body so it matches.
Yeah.
One
Like,
for
are they
one.
that big of an idiot?
Yeah, right.
Or is the picture fake?
Exactly. Yeah, it's more likely it's fake because I think even they would have done a better job at trying to do the witness protection,
Yeah.
fakery.
Let's see. Julie says it has to be the people outside of government.
And here's my opinion again, and I think I'm right because I mostly am right most of the time, that Jeffrey Epstein was involved in things that you don't talk about or can't talk about. And you will never know what he was involved in because it was used by law enforcement in justified, legitimate operations. They just went about it where they used, federally, felonies, right? They did those things on purpose to a international end. And that's why you will never hear about it, because just like you won't hear about JFK
And it's
or
so-
UFOs or anything like that, is protected from public consumption.
It's not only protected, but now through, I think, our own fault, we can be so easily manipulated that if any even shred of information came to light, all they have to do is be like, no, that's not true. Look who said it, this guy, and
what are
we
you gonna
hate
do?
him.
You got to trust the people who are involved in it.
Yeah,
So forth.
like all they'll do is get us fighting about it, and then you don't trust the source, and they're like, they'll never believe this is true. No one will ever believe you.
Julie says there was a sighting in Israel of a guy surrounded by security that looked a lot like him with long hair.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, I'm curious. I can't say that I know it's true or not true, but it's interesting. But everything like this, conspiracy theories are 1,000, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody has something. And,
Like Tupac's not dead.
yeah.
Total off the
Oh, God,
subject.
here we go. Oh, no.
Have you heard they want to investigate the death of Kurt Cobain again?
I saw that, yeah.
Now they're saying not a suicide, potentially a homicide.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember a whole lot surrounding the death of Kurt Cobain, but my husband was like, yeah, he shot himself with a shotgun.
Mm-hmm.
You know how difficult that would be?
Yeah, not that difficult. Shotguns are pretty easy.
To turn on yourself?
Do you have a shotgun?
No.
You can't speak on shotguns and how they are. I clean shotguns. I store a shotgun. If I really want, if I was dedicated,
I'm not saying you
I could
couldn't do it, but I'm sure they'd have to look at the angles and how it would have potentially been held.
Okay, everything. Yes, it's a possibility. I'll leave it at that. Did you see the video, the racist video that was put out by a Trump aide? Did you see any of that?
Oh, you're talking about the video depicting everyone as animals?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yes, I've seen parts of it.
Okay. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I've seen multiple bits of information and multiple theories as to what happened there.
Mm-hmm.
First and foremost, much like I'm attempting to do, I wish Trump would get off social media, period. Period. He's got a tendency to put his foot in his mouth even when he's publicly speaking, and I think that he is only making things worse for himself by continuously to post things on social media. So that's something. I have heard that it wasn't actually him, that, like you said, it was an aide. It was somebody else who posted a video. I even saw a video where Trump was like, I don't think this is okay. And we had him take it down. I don't think it's okay. So that's good. I don't know. I don't know if I would say if we're looking at it as, was it inappropriate and childish and unnecessary? Absolutely. Was it racist with the intention? Because to me, it's all about intention. Did somebody mean it to be a racist thing? From what I have seen in other content as to how that picture would have come up, and it was at the end of a video and probably wasn't maybe even intended to be part of the video that was aired, I don't know. I'm not sold that it was a purposely meant to be racist act. I don't know. I don't really know.
All right, so let's just say you're scripting a video, right? And there are different animals.
Yeah.
And the stereotypical insults that would be hurled at different races, right? Would you pick apes or monkeys to depict Michelle and Barack Obama?
No.
Unless you wanted that.
You wanted outrage.
You wanted an outrage. You wanted it to be something that was salacious, right?
Yep.
And so,
oh yeah, poor.
The creator,
Yeah.
right, wanted that reaction.
Yeah.
Now, that's phase number one. Do I think it was meant to outrage based on racial undertones? 100%. Okay. Now, the aide that saw this and saw Trump is the king lion on brand, right?
Yeah.
Has some racial undertones and shares that sucker.
Yeah.
Right? And then you have Trump, who delegated authority to run social media to an aide. Is he not ultimately responsible for whatever aides do? Does he not have rule sets?
Yeah. Like, did you not look at this? Do you okay posts? Like, and this is why I'm like, if it's a racist video, whoever made that is the problem. Sharing it was a bad idea. 100%. Why would he allow that to be shared?
He's responsible for it.
Right. I can't say with certainty, well, Trump's a racist. I can say with certainty that was an incredibly bad call. You should have seen that. Get off social media, because it's hard to defend. If someone's like, if I only saw that, if I only saw him share that, I have a real hard time defending you as not a racist. I totally get how somebody would think that. I don't think Trump shared it. I think Trump allowed it to be put on his social media. That was terrible. Terrible decision.
Well, from the public standpoint, when we deal with government agencies or even entertainers, we go through editorials, right? We have to publish questions we're going to ask, content we're going to talk about, and they have to put it through filters to make sure that it's okay to talk about, okay to be presented publicly. They're real suspicious of anybody having conversations because they don't want to land themselves in bad light. So they give us demands of what they will or will not talk about. And whatever we publish, they have to authorize going through 5 channels of making sure something's okay. So if that's something, if I'm talking to NASA and doing an article on them, I have to go through 5 levels of people making sure everything we're going to talk about is above board. You're telling me the executive branch, the president of the United States, that I can, on my own, on a whim, be able to publish anything out to Twitter on the president's behalf without it going through similar kind of filters to say, hold up, video's funny, but not for public consumption, not going to happen. And then the president then would be insulated from some 20-year-old intern from bringing this political issue even to our conversation.
Yeah, and like Julie says, Trump said he looked at it and okayed it. And this is the only reason I say I don't know is because we are seeing this play out on social media. Julie apparently saw Trump say he okayed it. I saw a video of Trump saying it's not okay, and I had it taken down. I don't agree with it. These are the words I saw come out of his mouth. So we're seeing 2 totally different content pieces.
All right, so let me just put the most likely scenario.
Yeah.
Trump watches the video, sees he's being depicted as a lion.
I was just
and
going to
says,
say that.
I like it.
I don't even
approve
care
this.
about the
I'm
rest.
a lion. I'm not going to watch the first 30 seconds
Yes.
and say, I'm a lion and put it on social media right now.
That's what BJ says. Trump probably watched the first 10 seconds
Oh,
of it
yeah.
like anyone watches a reel and said it was fine. That I was actually going to say, do you think he saw the first half of Kamala in there and to all these other people he fights with, and then he sees him come out as a lion, and it ended.
That's
For
it.
him,
Yeah.
it ended there.
Sign it out.
And then you see the rest of the video, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
we
Yeah, so
shouldn't have
it's
posted
okay.
that.
So I'm going to blame everybody on this.
Yeah.
All right. The creator has
Get
First
off
Amendment
social
rights.
media.
You can do whatever you want to do. It's in poor taste and it's insulting, but you have the right to do it. You have the aide who thought that was funny and didn't protect the president from posting bad stuff. And then you have the president that obviously delegated some kind of authority that they shouldn't have to someone who's incompetent. So I'm not going to officially say that the aide was racist or Trump was racist. They all should have known better. And even if it was South Park type of humor where they were taking shots at it and being, whatever, being confrontational or insulting, then they deserve whatever that cost is, 100%. Trump
Yeah.
deserves it, and the aide deserves it.
Yeah, I feel like this administration has really embraced social media and posting and reels and videos. And they do it kind of almost in a way like we've always said, Trump's the kind of guy that is like, he likes to rile up the other side.
Right.
He likes to say things that he knows they're going to ruffle some feathers and push back. And I think he gets a kick out of pushing their buttons.
For sure. Because he's crude. He's a crude guy.
Yeah.
Listen to his humor, his stand-up, press conferences, and whatever. He
Yeah.
says, and I had a friend that used to go to his, when he was fundraising back on the 2016 election. And Trump in a room with a bunch of wealthy, donors is a different Trump than what you see on the stage.
Yeah.
He is very vulgar and very crude as what you would expect in his from a guy that comes from New York that's in real estate. And then once the 2016 election happened, when you went in those same rooms, he dialed it back where he didn't use vulgarities and he didn't use things that would, insult anybody that were in the crowd. And he played the game a little bit better, but he's still that dude.
Yeah, I've heard people say that they were around him personally and thought, totally different person than you see on TV. Kinder, respectful, soft-spoken, didn't say a lot, and instead considered other people's points and liked to listen. So I think there are multiple versions and personalities within one man. And if I were in charge of his PR, I would say, get off the social media. You don't need it. If you want to put out bits of information like, oh, we just started Trump RX and it's going to lower costs of whatever. Oh, I just renamed the Gulf of America or whatever, and you want to leave it at that, fine. But the moment we're making reels now, we're making funny videos, we're pushing the buttons. Like we saw the daddy's home videos everywhere. And like, if it were me, I'd say, unnecessary.
Listen, Kelin, you're fired. I need someone who would do it for me.
I want to ruffle feathers. I like
it's a
pushing
strong
buttons.
suit, and you just don't understand. You understand one day, but today's not it.
Yeah.
That was Trump. How was that?
It's getting there. It's getting there.
My Russian is much better.
Yeah. Which is why when you hear these people say like Julie, and I love Julie, come on, Kelin, really? There's that's exactly the mentality I'm talking about when I say I don't discuss these things on social media anymore. Because yes, really, there is more than a black and white issue in some cases. There is more information out there than you know about. And there's two different stories playing out at the same time. And what your algorithm shows you is different than what my algorithm shows me. I know all of this. So when I say, I don't know, here's what I'm seeing, then really, that's the information I'm given. And that's all I'm stating is here's what I saw. How can I know if I'm not there?
It's reasonable and fair. Julie said he did say that at first, then admitted it. Trump is not embarrassed to be an a-hole. That is absolutely correct.
No, in
It's
fact,
one
I
of-
think he thinks it's fun.
He does. He is an a-hole. He is. When I say that he is a mud monster that collects badges of honor from what people throw at him and makes it part of his personality, like, I'm not kidding. That is a huge strength. Because if you call a guy, if you want him to be a racist and you call him a racist and he doesn't react and, even recoil from that, well, then the insult was ineffective and you got to pick something else. Continually trying to make him into a racist when anybody who looks into it says, yeah, he's probably not an outward racist? Do I think he makes crude humor jokes that people don't like if you're a black guy? Yeah, he probably has said a bunch of stuff that black people wouldn't like to hear him say. But do I think he's a racist in what I feel the word racism means? I don't think he's a racist. He's a terrible racist if that's the case.
I saw another video, a short. I don't know what event they were at, but it was like a very fancy black tie type of event. Trump was there, Clintons were there, all these people were there, and Trump went to speak, and he like opened with a joke. And I think this was from years ago. And Hillary Clinton sitting right there by him. And he was like, oh, yeah, just a little bit ago, you know, Hillary and I, it's a tight room. There's not a lot of space to move. And, you know, we sort of bumped into each other a bit. And she said, pardon me. And I was like, well, not yet, I'm not, or something. He made a joke about pardoning her. And she laughed. She laughed hysterically. The room laughed. He laughed. He's like, no, I'm just kidding. And went on with whatever. And I'm like, how much of the joking behind closed doors of all these characters in this reality show that is our government are little things that they all do, but have this outrage when it's public because they can use that for their side? How many little jabs do you think none of them care about until they can use it?
How about body cams for all politicians that at any time constituents can log into and see what you're saying and see what you're doing? Wouldn't that be amazing?
They'll find a way to say it's not real or it's AI or that video was edited.
Think of how tempered you would be if you knew that every conversation was part of public record because you're in the capacity of serving and there weren't any kind of like safe zones. If you're tinkling, I want to hear you tinkle. I want to see the video.
Do you think it would look a lot like all those Senate confirmation hearings?
No, but it would be different because we're seeing the Senate confirmation with all of the lead up and the personality conflicts of the conversations we don't see. We're seeing the sum of that. If those conversations couldn't happen off camera, then you would see a lot more people. It would be a different schema, absolutely a different schema.
Yeah, I don't know if it would be better or worse. They're watching their P's and Q's in a fake way.
Right, but you watch Real World, right?
The Real World, like from the 90s?
Yeah.
I might have seen bits and pieces.
So for the first
of it.
couple of weeks, they knew they were on camera, and then the cameras were all just there, and then you forget that they're there because they're just always there.
Yeah.
And then you get into the real you after you've forgotten the camera's rolling.
There's a term for that. I can't remember what it is, and I think I learned it in a marketing class one time in college. There's a legit term, and it means you act differently when you know you're being watched. And when you don't know you're being watched, you don't act that same way.
Yep. That would be cool. I would, Tom Massey and I.
Do you think Trump doesn't have that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He would not be able to do it.
He's like, I don't really care if you're watching me or not. In fact, I prefer you watch.
It's great entertainment. Tune in, 8 o'clock. I'll be peeing. Come in for the pee.
It'll be the best pee that you've ever seen. In fact, I don't know. It's going to be a lot of it. Going to be a lot of it. A lot more than Joe Biden ever
Call
had.
Guinness. This might be a record. All right, last topic of the day. Let's see.
Did you want to add any from yesterday when we were talking about AI and data centers and like, does your Facebook ChatGPT caricature ruin the environment? Did you have anything else to add on that?
I don't know. Were there any questions? I can respond to them. But my kid has already started beating me up, charging me $1 every time I mention AI in regular conversation because I'm obsessed with it.
Well, that's why I was like, listen, if there's any truth to this, Joe Danyi will know.
Yeah.
Like, should I not make a ChatGPT
No,
caricature?
you're fine. That is not what is fueling extra resource consumption. Just
like, it's not like spending a bunch of water and energy and all that stuff.
No. Like, if you had your full, let's just say you were looking at your electric bill and you want to find what's costing you so much money in electricity. And then someone comes along and says, I used my hairdryer or my curling iron and I left it on for 4 hours, right?
Yeah.
Now I can plug that sucker in and I can calculate how much it is used, and I can guarantee without even doing it that there are many more 24-hour-a-day running appliances that are consuming way more than your curling iron. So when you ask, is it costing me more? Yes. Proportionally, it is not your biggest cost. It was short term. It's over and under, right? Now, for the next month, there's going to be something else that's going to be doing something different than that. It's a growth curve that is going to go exponentially to the right-hand turn. It has nothing to do with caricatures.
I almost want to be like, if you panic bought gas and toilet paper in 2020, don't you tell me what my little Facebook caricature did.
Yeah, don't feel guilty about your caricature. Even though it was dumb, I agree with them that it's dumb.
I made like 3 of those things.
It's dumb. But still, yeah, you didn't waste the world's
And I wanted to make one with my dog, but it said I was out of my
Jerry
free
says
limit.
it's a Hawthorne effect. Is that what you're looking for?
That could be it. I don't really remember the name of it, but yeah, probably.
Okay.
The Hawthorne
I'll go with Jerry
effect.
on this. He's a smart dude. So we'll go with Hawthorne effect.
Know that you act differently when you're being watched. I've even heard that with radio voice. People who work in radio, they say, whether you want to or not, the moment you hit start and you're on air, you change your voice a little. You talk differently. And I always used to be like, no, I don't. I have one voice. I don't change my voice. Then I really started to pay attention. And I was like, I think I kind of do.
That happened one time. Fast Freddy brought me into the station he was on. He was like, I want you to come on and talk about X, right? Mm-hmm. And he goes on at, we'll say 4 o'clock, and 3:30 we're just sitting in the studio and we're talking about what we're going to talk about. It was just free-flowing, good conversation. And we recorded a portion of it. It took us probably 15 takes after we knew we were being recorded to have the same conversation that we had a couple minutes earlier. So once we know we're recording, we worried about word usage and whatever.
You
and we
feel
kept
under a microscope?
Yeah, right. But, like when we do this, I don't want, like, if you met me in person, I am this dude, and I know you're that person.
Yeah.
So after a while of doing it, you forget to be polished,
Yeah, especially long form like this. When you talk for so long, you do sort of just like, I don't know if you forget the audience is there, but it feels more natural. Like we're just sitting here kind of BSing.
Conversation. Yeah.
And another reason, like we've said on this show before, Joe and I in no way prep for this. Like we don't know what we're going to say. We don't know what we're going to talk about. We don't know how long it's going to go. We know about how long we want to fill. But we basically come here and say very little to each other until we hit start.
Right.
And I remember years ago, I used to work for Hot 101, and AC and Kelly, I loved them. They're so great. I love Kelly. Ace is now gone, but I can remember they would do the same thing, and I would even learn that from them, is if we were in the studio talking about something that happened, and, oh, did you watch that last night? Did you see this headline? Did you whatever? One of them would eventually go, okay, stop. Don't say any more about it. Don't say any more about it. Till we're on, because they want it to sound authentic. You're getting our actual reactions to it. And I love that because it feels real. It doesn't feel rehearsed. But the downside now with the internet is I could say something as my first reaction. You're like, how do you feel about this video? I could say something, and then later that day or the next day go, you know what? Now that I've had time to really think about it, I don't feel that way. Actually, now that I think about it, I wish I would have said this. But guess what? It's already on the internet, and 15 people are commenting on your video talking about what a terrible person you are. But you can't take it back. You had this much time to get an answer out there. And doesn't matter how much you disagree with that. Next week, I could disagree. A year from now, I could be like, I don't know why I said that. I don't feel that way. Too bad. Everybody hates you. It's the internet.
All right, last topic now. The SAVE Act.
Last topic. The SAVE
Act. Passed the House yesterday, going to the Senate this week.
What is this again?
So this is where, in order to vote, you have to have a state issue ID, and you verified that you are a legal citizen to vote, the SAVE Act. And the House, it passed pretty easily, but I think Senate's going to be a little bit different. I'm happy about this. I mean, let me give you the pros and cons. Pros and cons are pros. The people who vote in elections, we know that they will be legitimate voters. They're supposed to be here. They're supposed to be voting. Downside, there are a bunch of people who don't know how to follow rules, don't know how to get driver's license, change their name after they get married, and don't know how to do any of the other steps in order to get qualified to vote in an election. And I disagree. Like, I watch enough cop interaction videos where people know what they should do and they don't do it anyway, and they get stuck in a position where they just were too lazy or too indifferent to be able to follow it, but have all kind of complaints, right? That could be renewing your driver's license, having car insurance, putting your registration sticker on, whatever.
right? And they know they should do it, and they have the ability to do it. They just don't do it.
Yeah.
Now, does a cop, when you see that you have an expired registration, care that you had a busy month and just couldn't get it done?
No.
Right? So if I started telling you, let's just say the SAVE Act passes, it gets signed into law, we have from now into November to get everybody who changed their married name and just needs to go get it updated on their driver's license or file paperwork or whatever. Is there enough time to go from non-compliant voter, run commercials that say, hey, the SAVE Act is here and we're going to save elections, right? All you got to do, go to the DMV and update your driver's license so that your name, pull out your license. Does it have your address on there? Yes, no. Oh, it doesn't? Go to the DMV and get one that does. Is your last name the same as what you're going to be voting as? It doesn't. Go to the DMV. Now, if you give enough of a runway for everybody to be compliant, you can start off the commercial with, do you want to vote? Yes, no. Yes, do this. If you don't care about voting, don't worry about it. Stay non-compliant and you can't vote even if you wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see a downside to this because you have to have it to drive. You have to have it to get on a plane. Why is it suddenly bad to have to vote?
The Democrats get illegal votes, and they really like it. So being able to make sure everything's legitimate is not in the interest of Democrats when they need the illegal voters to count in their elections.
Yeah.
Period.
I mean, I'm somebody who has changed my name due to marriage. I have moved out of the state to a new state. I've done multiple things that require me to go and update my identification.
Yeah.
Didn't cost me an arm and a leg. Wasn't all that difficult. Sometimes it's not even that long of a process.
Yeah, and if you have these people who are in a place where they should be a legitimate voter, and it's just hard for them to do anything, like we do it, hard to get to the DMV, can't travel, don't have a lot of money, like those are all solvable problems. But you don't allow elections to be unsecure, right, as the cost for the sake of this small minority of people who if you had a hearing and said, okay, we did the SAVE Act, give me all these exceptions and let's solve how we're going to field the exceptions. Hey, I can't get to the DMV. Cool. Here's what you do if you can't get to the DMV. I don't have a lot of money. Here's what we're going to do if you don't have a lot of money. Can't figure out. Don't have a lot of time. Like, give me all the reasons, and we will lay out these situations and how we rectify that so we can get the most amount of people that are legally could vote to actually vote. And that's what I would do as a business owner. If I changed the protocol, I would have to re-educate the people who are doing business with me so that as long as they knew, they could be compliant with the new protocol.
Yeah, I mean, everything in America somebody wants, we find a way to get it.
Yeah.
If someone's like, oh, I can't do this, I'm unable. All right, well then here's a new route to take.
Yeah, but the Democrats think that their minority groups are too stupid to figure out how to follow protocols. And I would be insulted if I was like, well, black people can't do this, right? Bullshit. Everybody can figure it out. When you really want to vote and you are passionate about it, you will go to great lengths to make sure that you can vote. And so long that here are the 5 rules, you do the 5 rules, you can vote. That is on you as the voter, not like let's have a completely broken system where we have illegal voters for the sake of the people who can't figure out the XYZ.
Ron says, I've always had to show my ID before voting. This is a non-issue.
Yeah, but other parts of the country, that is not the case.
Yeah.
There are states that allow, and even if, like, we have a good system in Ohio, where the vote tallies for people who legitimately show up where they're supposed to be with the credentials that they have, get cast in the normal way. Anybody who can't figure it out, they cast a provisional ballot, and then the Board of Elections goes and checks to see if these people were legitimate, right? And that's all that's going to be required. Every state, everybody gets to vote. Provisionals don't count until they've been qualified. And then give people the reason to go get qualified first so that maybe 1% of the votes cast are all unqualified. Not for the sake of having 5% of the votes that are done in the blind with no oversight, no checking, and then your vote counts in an election that actually matters. It's not a fair trade.
Yeah, if it's a non-issue, why is there so much pushback? I think it is an issue.
Yeah, they know illegals are voting, and they couldn't pass an identification issuance, and you lose votes. The Democrats need illegal voting to happen in order to dominate in elections. You do that, Democrats are going to have a really hard time getting elected.
So what are the Democrats saying is a reason they don't want this?
So a while ago, there was a Republican push to have elections be managed on the state level. No federal overreach, allow states to be able to manage themselves. And then all of a sudden that flip-flop where Republicans all of a sudden want federal overreach when it comes to elections to solve this problem. So they did themselves a disservice by staking out, it's by principle, states' rights and whatever. Now that's playing against them. So this is the other side of that coin from 3 years ago.
Great point. We can't compare Ohio to other states. I worked the 2020 election, so I had personal experience.
Yeah, we do it right. And that is the greatness of the laboratories of the states. It's supposed to be, you have 50 states to trial things out, call the things that work really well, a pass, and anything that doesn't work well, a fail. Bail on the stuff that fails and adopt things that worked in other states and trial them in your state. That's the benefit of having these laboratories is you can work through, let's just say Colorado wants to do legalized marijuana. And it was a big fail, right? Well, other states can look at Colorado, see what they did, what they didn't do, what they could have done better. And when they try it in their state, they use Colorado as an example. And after it's been used and trialed out, we get it wrong a lot before we get it right. Any brand new regulation, any brand new regulation or procedure is not going to be perfect on its first iteration. It takes small scale trials before the whole federal government can adopt it. So that would be my, I'd encourage the legislature to try, if you have an idea, let's take your biggest offending states. Let's just say California. Try it in California this election cycle and mandate it for them, put some money tied to it, help them out in ways that the federal government can assist the state, and then fix it and make it better and then roll it out to other states after that's done. But a federal rollout, all that's going to happen is it's going to be not perfect or imperfect. And then anybody who's a critic of doing it is going to take aim at it and say,
like,
"See,
look, it didn't work."
Exactly.
See, it didn't work in this case.
But as Jack said, it's already been this version of the federal regulation is already being done in Ohio. So use what's already being done and use that as your model for those other states that are too cavalier in their methods.
You made Julie mad.
Why? What did I do?
Julie says, "Bullshit, Joe. Provide the data that shows Dems win by illegal voting."
No, I'm not going to do it. It's mathematically a certainty. And the way that I weigh these things, especially when somebody automatically says something doesn't happen, I'm a math person, right? I know it happens. And the only way that I know that we're pushing up against it is your reaction. If you tell me it's not happening, I know for certain it's happening. If you say it's probably happening, but we try to mitigate it by doing X, Y, Z, then I see an engineer's brain is in there, and it's like I put $10, $100 bills on the table out there, right? And I'm thinking mathematical certainty or a possibility or probability that somebody comes along that takes a $100 bill that doesn't need the $100 bill. And if I can't prove that it happened and you can't prove that it did, I'm not saying that I'm accusing John Smith of taking it when he didn't need it. I'm going to say, what's your strategy for keeping people who don't need it away from this table? If you say it's not happening, then I know it's happening. If you're like, what I do is I take their name, I look them up on social media, I look through their pictures, and it looks like they have enough money, I don't allow them to take the 100, that is you taking one obstacle and making it less likely that a person doesn't take the $100 bill that does. So I'm not bought it. If you have 1 million people casting a vote and you want to convince me that there aren't any illegal votes in there, all I got to do is say, okay, well, let's just say we'll role play this, right? I'm in California and I'm not a legitimate voter, but I want to vote for Kamala Harris. Can I walk into a building, right, and they don't check IDs? If I had a name in my head of a person that was legitimately voting, right, and a canvasser came by and gave me something that said, Julie Smith hasn't voted in 10 years, right? She's on the rolls, but she hasn't voted. Here, say you're Julie Smith. They can't check IDs. You can go in there and vote as Julie Smith, all right? So now we have the We have the theater set. We have the stage set, right? So then I'm going to go to the officials and say, hey, I have this scenario for you. Guy comes in, has Julie Smith's ID. You don't check IDs, right? This guy walks in and votes for Julie Smith. What do you have in place, right, to take that vote and then throw it in the garbage? If you say, oh, yeah, the signature happens, and if it doesn't identically match, it goes right in the garbage. Cool. There's your obstacle, right? Versus this voter ID, and a guy walks in with Julie Smith's information that he got from a canvasser who said, just vote as Julie Smith. And he has an ID that says Bob Smith. The person at the table is going to say, you are not Julie Smith, and going to throw in the garbage without verification of signature. Your name doesn't match the ballot that you're supposed to be making, right? Now, my scenario is likely to happen. Your scenario, very unlikely to happen because you don't check IDs.
Yeah, and I don't understand if you don't believe this even happens and illegals aren't voting, then again, why the pushback? What's the problem? Then just let it pass. ID is required. End of story. If it's a non-issue, and then it shouldn't be a big deal.
I'm saying it's a
we got 3 minutes.
probability that it is happening, and we don't have the defenses to make it not happen. So even if I'm wrong and it's not happening, and you do this, like Kelin said, there's no downside to it. All you've done is take my worry away, meaning that couldn't even happen even if somebody tried it.
Yeah. So Jack says he worked in the 2020 election. No voter ID has been a Democratic advantage for years, and they pushed for it years before the 2016 election. Jon Stewart was pushing it on The Daily Show. Yeah, if it's not happening and we don't even need to worry about it, then there should be no problem. Pass the act, make it required, and see what happens.
Yeah, the marketplace has these models everywhere. If you want like a bank can figure out how to get a legitimate withdrawal from the bank, right? Knows how to do it.
Yeah.
How do you do it? The guy shows up, say, I want to take money out of this account. The teller has to be suspicious and say, what if he got that account? What if he's really not the account holder? Is there a way that the person that's supposed to take money out of this account, okay, we have a signature. You make a signature. It matched, and you can take the money out. You had an ID that's, I'm pretty sure you passed 3 of my qualifications. You were in person, you had an ID, the signature matched. Now, that is one teller that can spend 10 minutes verifying that person. When you take a system that is pushing millions of votes through a system, all right, you sign a credit card receipt, right? There's signature verification to make sure what you signed is what's on the card. How many, do you think anybody even looks at that? Have you ever signed so wrong that you're like, that'll never pass muster?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And so maybe if somebody would let me in on the signature qualifiers, that I would feel more confident that it's just not saying, I guess they match. I don't know, a little different, but I don't care. Like, is it forensic where it gets put through a machine and it matches to a probability of 90%, of over 90%, it's a match and it goes on to the next level?
I have seen where my own signature that I know I wrote looks different here than it does here.
Exactly. So I don't really agree that the signature matchups are worth anything. I think the standards are very low there. So anyway, across the board, the Republicans charged that elections had tons of fraud, and if they didn't do anything about it, I was going to be very disappointed, and now it seems that they have done something. I don't necessarily think it gets through the Senate, though. All right, let's get out of here. Thanks, everybody, for joining. We'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our